and welcome to Film Independent Presents Virtual Edition. I'm Rachel Bleemer, Director of Events for Film Independent. We're here today for a very exciting Q&A, and before we get started, I have to give some praise to our loyal supporters. Thank you to our incredible lead sponsor, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, and our screening partner, Vision Media. I'm honored today to introduce our guest moderator. Please welcome Scott Mantz. Scott, please take it from here.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, and very, very excited to have an engaging conversation about the United States versus Billie Holiday. And joining us for this conversation, okay, first of all, we have director Lee Daniels, and we have Best Actress Drama Golden Globe nominee Andrade. Hot off the presses, 2 Golden Globe nominations. Hot off the presses, because we also have Best Original Song. First of all, congratulations. Andra, how was your morning?
It's just, I don't know, it was a blessing, honestly. It was a blessing. It's been definitely, phone going crazy. Lee and I spoke super early this morning, what time was it? 6 in the morning or 6:30 or something?
Right after they announced the awards.
For a musician, that's corpse time. You know what I mean? We're not really functioning that great at that time. But I was just, I don't know. I just been like in tears and just in gratitude all day, and just like, I don't know, thinking about, leading my cast, and it's just, the experience was, I don't know. There's not a way to put it into words. I'm just grateful.
Here's the thing. I told her, I said, you think that you are doing, because we're so tired, we're like this with the press. I said, you think that we're doing press now? You ain't seen nothing yet, girl.
Yeah. That's what I was telling him too. So I was like, this is the beginning. Oh, but we did the beginning. That started in January. No, and I'm so excited, definitely.
Well, let's go back to the beginning. Like my knowledge of Billie Holiday is the music, and my experience. I was like 4 or 5 years old when I saw Lady Sings the Blues for the first time. Lee, what was your introduction to Billie Holiday, and specifically to this film and the story that it was telling, which is so little known?
Yeah, Lady Sings the Blues Like Yours. I guess I'm older than you, because I saw it a little older than that when it first came out in the theater, and I thought that it was I thought it was the story of Billie, but it turned out that it wasn't. I love the movie so much, and I think it's the reason why I'm directing right now. And but it wasn't the movie. It wasn't the story. It was the movie, but it wasn't the story. And the story blew me away. 40 years later, Susan Laurie Parks wrote this incredible piece that I was drawn to. I had no idea that this woman that kicked off the civil rights movement as we know it with her song, The Strange Fruit, and that the government was trying to stop her at all costs. And so, yeah, I mean, what we did was, it's not a biopic, it's just a moment in time. And we cut back to Billie as a kid, sort of explaining why she is who she is when the government catches up to her. But it's history. It's American history, and I wanted to tell it.
Absolutely. Andra, this is your first movie. This is your first big movie. You're in basically every scene of this film. Like, was it an easy yes? What was that first conversation that you had with Lee like?
No, it wasn't even a regular yes. I mean, Lee and I have like talked about this so many times, but I was terrified, honestly. And I remember, and it was funny because even Lee, was sort of like, I don't know, I love actors. I want to work with an actor. And me, I'm like, I'm not an actor. So yeah, we should definitely work with an actor. So I always tell people, I was like, you would laugh if you were a fly on the wall on that first conversation at Soho House. Because at first it was us both sitting there like, why are we here? You know what I mean? Like, this is just like, I was just terrified, but it was because, 2 reasons. A, I'm not an actress, like, and that was my big thing, was like, okay, and then B, I'm a huge fan of, there are 3 reasons. I'm a huge fan of Billie Holiday's. And I was like, I saw it, like I dreamt about it, even like just being a stain on Billie Holiday's legacy and just being so terrible you know. And then the other thing was I didn't want to remake Lady Sings the Blues, because now I'm like, great, I'm gonna be a stain on Billie Holiday's legacy and Diana Ross's legacy. Like, I'm just gonna be two just stains, you know what I mean? So I was like, but when I found out from Lee that it wasn't a retelling of Lady Sings the Blues, that it was, they were actually going to go into the war on drugs, and how the government went after her and targeted her so viciously, and how they do our leaders, you know what I mean, so so often, and how they historically did. And then I saw him, I saw Lee, I saw his commitment to authenticity. I saw his commitment to her and to telling the story, and I could see it was the same thing. We got to pull the top off of this untruth that's been allowed to persist for so long. You know, it was honestly like, that was the thing that made me move forward in the audition process, even at least. And he introduced me to Tasha Smith, who was my acting coach, and so yeah, it was just like his skill, obviously, you know, as a director, and then his passion for her and for that story, Susan Laurie Park's script. It was like, and as a fan of hers, it was like, great, we'll be vindicating her legacy. It was a powerful kind of storm that really both of us had to overcome this fear of like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? So it was like, yeah. It was great. It's an interesting start for sure.
It is an interesting start. And, Andra, you've said you're not an actor. Or, I beg to differ. You absolutely, positively are.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
Lee, I want to ask, like, why Andra? Like, what made you say, that's my Billie?
I had interviewed many actresses. I narrowed it down to a few, and I really didn't want to meet Andra. I didn't want to meet Andra because I'd done it already with Gabourey Sidibe, and I was like, she had never acted before, and it was like, but then her voice was so good, and my manager kept telling me to meet with her, and everybody, my agent told me to, and so I met with her, and you could just, there's something about her, and look at her. How could you look at her? I mean, so it starts there, and then once you get past the spirit, you really understand the vulnerable spirit, someone that was nervous about taking on the legacy, and she was as afraid of doing this as I was. And it was great. It was just, I knew she was onto something. I knew I was onto something with her. And so I sent her off to an acting coach. I sent her off to a vocal coach, and then she blew me away. She just blew me away, and it was magic after that. And I think that here's a great part. She trusted me, and I think that that's what happens really when you just render. And I think that you see Billie on screen because of trust and because of her being so afraid to be afraid, if that makes any sense at all. Yeah. She's so afraid. She was afraid. Does that make sense? She's afraid to be unafraid, afraid to be afraid, or afraid to be unafraid. Which one is it, Andra?
Like afraid to be unafraid makes sense, because I felt that. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
Yeah, I think we got you, Lee. I think we definitely got you with that. But Andra, I want to ask about that trust. Like, what was the epiphany that you had where you go, okay, I'm all in with this person. He's got my back and I have his.
I mean, for me, like I said, there's obvious stuff, right? I've seen the work that he has done with other actresses before, with other actors before, and it is unparalleled to me, the performances. I always reference back to, he knows, and I mentioned this to him in his movie Paperboy, Nicole Kidman's performance in that. I was like, who is she? Like, I just remember being like, jaw drop. You never see her like that. You know what I mean? And it's like, she's phenomenal. Obviously, she's a legend, but it was like, for me as an artist, watching her play that role, I was like, whoa, she embodied it so beautifully. And so it was like, he did that with Gabby, he did that with Monique. I even mentioned to him before, I was like, it's funny with Precious, I almost forgot that Mariah was in the movie because she was so in her role as a social worker, so it's just like these amazing performances. But in this moment, I mean, for me, hugely, it was God. You know what I mean? It was like, for me, I'm a very spiritual person, and it was God just saying, yes, this role, and yes, Lee Daniels, and like, yes, Billie Holiday, and so it was like, okay, so even though I was scared and I was terrified, I had a peace, and also in him, it was like, everything had to be authentic and everything had to be real, and that was my thing. I'm like, I'll do whatever we can put my body through whatever, we can do whatever as long as it's truth. And that's what just kept coming through with him, was truth, truth, truth. And like, so to me, it was easy to trust. And it made it, you know, I don't have to be worried about, oh, did I get it? Did I get, if he was like, we got it, it was like, cool. Even if I felt like I was shit, he was like, no, trust me, I know what I'm doing. We got it. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, so it was, yeah, the trust part actually kind of came a little easier because, you know, just, you know, you're with somebody who's looking for greatness, honestly.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's definitely a trust level where you just know.
Yeah.
And in terms of the success you've had, Lee, you know, I was there at Sundance in 2009 with Precious. I was there for that whole year-long ride with you, and big screen, small screen with Empire, all the success that you've had, all the confidence you've had as a filmmaker. What were the challenges that you still face? What were the obstacles you still had faced with the United States versus Billie Holiday because of the story that this movie was telling?
Obstacles in as much as getting the movie financed or getting the movie.
Yes.
That's hard. That was a hard one. I mean, it was hard, but it wasn't hard. That, you know, I was surprised that the studios again did not want to see this film, and especially this time of, like, you know, Black Power and just people being sensitive to Black heroes and to us. I was surprised. So, and if they want to give you the film, they want to do the film, they give it to you. They will say, okay, we'll do it for $10. And, you know, I wanted to really do justice with this. I wanted to feel like we felt, Scott, when we first saw Lady Sings the Blues. It was magical, you know, and it was and I wanted to do justice to Billie Holiday with the you know, with her fashion, with the costumes. It was really important. With the hair, it was really important. It's so easy to screw up films with bad hair, bad production design, bad cinematography. It's just like, if you don't have the money, you can't do it right. So I wanted to do Billie justice, and I was not going to settle for $10 from whatever studio was giving it to me.
Yeah. No, listen, I want to get into the cinematography and your, you know, costume design.
But I want to say that, you know, thank God for our producer, Jordan Fudge, who came in and financed this film, hook, line, and sinker. A Black man that really understood my vision and what I wanted to do with it. But
listen, Lee, your vision is right there. Your the confidence of this movie, it's right there. And this has now been a week, and I've seen it twice. So
Wow.
I don't do that. Okay,
Yeah,
I watched this movie twice. So, you know, listen, Andra, the thing is with playing Billie Holiday, you're taking a character whose voice, whose performances are so ingrained in music for almost a century, and you're also having to talk and act like a flesh and blood person.
Yeah.
How did you do that? How did you prepare to play Andrade in a way that humanized her and showed her really just in a really raw way?
Billie, yeah, I'm playing her. I mean, well, for starters, honestly, like I said, Lee introduced me to Tasha Smith, who was my acting coach, and to Tom Jones, and so they prepared me. I mean, he introduced me to her for the audition starting out. So, and that was at the end of 2017, you know, right? And so she started preparing me then just for the audition. And so, I mean, it was a crash course in just studying a person and becoming a person, and a crash course in acting. You know, that was the crazy part. It was like taking years and years of lessons and trying to truncate it into this period of time. Now, fortunately, it ended up that I guess from like, I started auditioning at the end of 2017, landed it in 2000, top of 2018, and then we started filming in 2019. So it ended up time-wise, as far as when they were filming the movie, that I ended up having more time to just continue to live in her and sit in her. But it was, I mean, I had to trust Tasha, I had to trust Tom, you know, it was, they were sort of teaching me, because I'm a researcher. Like, I'm a typical Capricorn, just like, we need all the information. I need all the details. I need every photo. I need every video. I need every documentary, book, you know, even finding stuff at an auction house. Actually, I was talking to him about the letter that I found. It was one of the only letters, at least that we know, that exists, that she wrote from prison to Joe Guy, you know. And so it was like a bunch of research. But like Tasha and Tom and Lee were like, great, but now you have to inform all of that research with who you are, you know, with your experiences, and tie those to Billie and let those two spirits commingle. And so that was difficult to do. I don't like holding on to trauma and to painful shit and like, you know, just stuff that, but you have to. Like, as an actor, I already loved actors, but it made me just love them even more, because I'm like, wow, you have to just live. You have to live in this space for what feels like an eternity, when you want to just compartmentalize and lay it down so you can be healthy. But so they taught me how to do all that, how to just break down scenes and break down a script, how to inform every single line and be present. And the key thing that Tasha taught me was just be putty in his hands. So I can prepare you and we can go through these things. But at the end of the day, Lee might be like, nope, do give me something different. You got to have that, like on a drop of a dime. You know what I mean? And so, and actually, to be honest with you, I think as an artist, I enjoyed that. It kept you on your toes. It kept butterflies in my stomach. It kept knots in my stomach. So, I mean, it was just tons of preparation, weight loss, you know, changing who I was, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, doing a bunch of research, holding on to emotional trauma. Just, it was, you know, and then being available and being present for
Having
him.
her unprepared, I didn't like it to like, if, I'll give you an example. Everything was sort of on the fly too. I think the day before or the day of, they had, you know, Billie had just come out of jail and she was about to perform at Carnegie Hall. So they have her, the scene is written, she's at a piano rehearsing for Carnegie Hall. I decided to put her in weights, throw the dog in there at the last minute, to just throw her, just like, what do you want? What?
Yeah.
Just go. And I thought that was exciting. Also, the crowd surfing scene during Pigfoot and a Bottle of Beer in Baltimore, as she surfs out into the crowd, like that was never written like that. And you know, Billie Holiday never crowd surfed, but the extras look beautiful. They look wonderful. And I said, you know, let's throw you out into the crowd surf. He said, what? Let's just throw you out in the audience and crowd surf. So that was unexpected. And I think she just trusted the audience. She trusted the extras. But I like to surprise the actors and also my crew. I like to surprise everybody. I keep everybody on edge with surprises.
Yeah, go ahead.
To chime in on that too. And you know what, Lee, I realized, I was like, with doing that, it just made it feel like life. You know what I mean? Not everything in life is planned and not everything in life is expected and anticipated. And that's what I realized on set. I'm like, yeah, it just feels like life. Like, let's get our bodies together, Lester. Let's exercise. You know what I mean? Like, it just felt very much like that. And so you respond in the moment, which was beautiful, to be honest with you.
You know, this whole film, this whole story, it just starts with Billie Holiday's insistence on singing Strange Fruit whenever she wants to sing it, whenever it's in her heart, the freedom to just do it. And in face of all the obstacles, I mean, it was before the civil rights movement officially started in like the 50s and the 60s. But Andra, what was it like for you, whether it was in an audition or a rehearsal, or maybe during principal photography, when you sang Strange Fruit for the first time?
As Billie, you mean as?
Yes.
Audition. Start with the audition.
Okay, yeah.
she was like heavy in the audition. She was a little Zoptic. She was Zoptic in the audition, and it was fabulous. I gotta talk. I'm gonna chime in here.
Go, yeah.
So she was very, it's funny. I should show the audition. You know one thing, that audition, I'm gonna add that to like a DVD special or something.
Yeah.
Because the audition, she was finding her way and the voice wasn't there. And you can see the transition from Andra to Billie. And but the song was, even though it wasn't Billie's voice, it was Andra finding Billie's voice. And it is still, even in any iteration, you know, she knew what to do to land it. So by the time she sang it, she had recorded it before we began filming. And so we learned so much about Billie while we were on the set,
Yeah.
and she'd evolved so that by the time she actually was to sing the song, it was a different song. It was a different rendition. It was something. And so I said, sing it live, because we can't go back to that.
Mhm.
We don't know that person
Yeah.
anymore. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah. It was really like it was a different person. I think that's what it was. It felt like a different person singing the song. And I don't think I not more than I think I didn't know. I had no idea how much. And people always warn me, when you get on set, Tasha would say it will change. Lee would say it will change. When you get on set and you're dropped in that space and in that, it will change. And I'm like, okay, but I'm thinking, okay, we've prepared. I'm nervous. I'm never going to be prepared. I'm not. But it's a different person when you get on set and you're around and you're seeing things and I always say, for me, it felt like the difference in the audition and then even pre-recording the voice. The audition was a performance, you know what I mean? It was to pull out the emotion in a performance and an homage to Billie Holiday. Recording it was more of an homage, to Billie Holiday and trying to get it correct. And on set, it was different, you know what I mean? Performing it as her, it's not an homage to her at this point. It's homage to our people and to her people and those people that she was fighting for and defending. So I think in the other two,
Yeah.
it was an urgency that I did not have. I had an urgency on set because I always say, I think it's something about knowing, I think playing a character who is going to die, and then also playing a character who has an inkling that they know they're going to die early. Because she would say, I think Harry Anslinger is going to kill me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when you're playing a character like that, it's urgency. I don't need you to enjoy the song. I don't need you to call it beautiful. I need you to listen. It's not beautiful. It's not pretty. It's a horror, you know what I mean? And you have to understand. So there was a sense of urgency and the need for people to really absorb those words and to do something with them. I think that was the difference, from on set and the audition.
Lee, I have to say, by the way, Philadelphia right in the house here with you.
Really?
Yes.
And so was Billie. Holiday was Philadelphia too.
Yeah, Philly. Mm-hmm.
Represent.
Yeah.
Lee, this is, I think, just your most accomplished and most fully realized movie to date.
Wow.
And it not just the
Well,
performance.
that means a lot coming from you, Scott. You're hard. You're hard. You're a hard one to please. You're a hard one to please, Scott.
Listen, I watched it twice in a week.
That's amazing.
But Lee, it is more than the performances. It is more than the writing. It is more than the directing. It is your cinematography. It is your wardrobe, your hair and makeup, like your production design. First, let's start with the wardrobe and the hair and the makeup. How did you get this look? And let's start with that.
Yeah. Well, here's the great part. There are a gazillion pictures of Billie Holiday that we could reference to.
Mm-hmm.
And Apollo really, he knew. He has that thing where he knows women and he understands. He could see what worked with Andra. Andra's body was perfect for Billie's wardrobe. And he went in and we had conversations with Prada. So it was too late for Prada to do all of the gowns. So he got a bunch of them. But then most of the pictures you see online are actually costumes that Paulo designed for Billie, for Andra, for Billie. So he really did. He was meticulous down to the beads, down to the jewelry, down to everything. And also with it was important to me because, as I said to you before, I was really affected by Lady Sings the Blues. And so I studied a little bit of Wong Kar-wai in The Mood for Love when we're looking at the backdrop of the production design. When you study his work in The Mood for Love, I wanted to give a nod to it without making a scene about it. But a lot of the backdrops sort of were a great color palette to costumes. So costumes and production design were in complete sync. My cinematographer too. We had many. Look, the hardest scene I've ever directed before in my life really was the lynching scene. It's all one shot from the time she gets off that bus to the time she goes on to the stage to sing Strange Fruit, all of it. I was terrified. We rehearsed it. The actors didn't rehearse it till the day of, but we had we planned that. It took us a week to really, Andrew Dunn and my AD and my production designer. It took us a week because she goes from room to room. And I really wanted you to feel like what it was like to see, what it was like to actually see a lynching. What was it really like? And what was it like to really be high too? So we do a little bit of that. The prequel to that was Jimmy getting high for the first time and young Billy taking him through the brothel. That was a 1 or 2. And we come back to, and then we bookend it with that one. That was hard. It was hard work.
Wow. It looks like it was hard work. It's the movie is so effective in that way, and it stays with you long after it's over. And Andra, like, in terms of wardrobe, in terms of hair and makeup, the first time that you got made up, that you got dressed up as Billy and you were ready to go as Billy, and you looked in the mirror and you saw yourself as Billy for the first time, what was that like for you? Like, how did you feel when you saw yourself really, truly as Billy for the first time?
Gosh, how did I really feel in that moment? It's a combination of things, I think, because again, I had done a lot of, just prep work and, to be set. And honestly, the one commanding emotion was terror still. Like Lee knows, I was like, every day I woke up, or not woke up because I wasn't really sleeping either. But every day was going to set. It was like, I was sure today's the day that they're going to finally realize I'm terrible and they're going to fire me. Like, I just knew every day was like that day. This is the day I'm going home. This is the day they're going to realize you can't do it. So that was the main emotion, period. Like that was, but I will say, turning into her, like, you stand different. I felt different. My shoulders sat differently. There was like a confidence in her and a little bit of a liberation and a freedom of just like, sort of this, I don't know, this air and this behavior. And I don't know, it gave me the green light and the license. I was living in her and staying in her in my life, but like, it gave me license to be her. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? It was like seeing the hair and like, because because we cut my hair. When did we cut? I don't remember how long, Lee, if you remember, before we got to set, we had cut all my hair off.
It was long. It was really long.
It was so long. It was
when she cut the hair, Andra's known for her hair. Andra, the singer, is known
down my butt.
So when she cut it, I said, "Oh shit, she's in." And here's the thing: there's a God bless him, Charles Gregory. It was just incredible. A wig maker, black man, great hair person in the industry. He passed away from COVID of recent. But there's a scene in this scene before she goes into the hospital. She's on the bed with Jimmy. And it was, I think, the first time we used sort of like these contacts to give her this aging look and jaundice. Anyway, so she's looking at me, she's talking, and I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, okay, so I know real drug addicts, and I come from that world. I turned to Javante. I said, Javante, is she okay? Is this something y'all not telling me? Like, do I need to know something? So I said, Andra, come here. And she said, yeah. And I said, and then she snapped out of it and came back to Andra. And she says, I'm acting, Lee. I'm acting. Crazy. It was crazy.
The sweetest thing. I will tell you, it was the first moment that I was like he was really like, I mean, there would be multiple scenes where he'd be concerned, like the sex scene.
Well, because you weren't getting enough sleep. And I thought to myself that this is I'm taking advantage of you, because she really wasn't sleeping. And it was not good. And I felt, you know how you get, Scott, when you walking like this when you don't have no sleep, and it's like, shaking. Is this acting or is this real?
But he was so concerned, and it was funny because it was him being concerned that broke me out of the moment, because I just was like, most of the time.
I could have killed myself. I should have never broke you out of it. I should have never.
No, you didn't break me out like that, but it was just that caring concern that I was like, oh shit, he's really worried right now. I was like, okay, no, I'm good. I was like, let's run in and get it. But it was I wasn't sleeping, it's very true. But like, I was, listen, honestly, I'm not that great at sleeping anyway, but in particular on set, I just sort of indulged it a little bit more. Cause to be honest, again, it was my first movie role and I was so concerned about being not good. And like, so it was sort of, honestly, some days, especially when we were doing scenes where she was high, I'm very fast, as you can see, boom, 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 right? Billie Holiday's molasses slow. Everything, nothing is too, nothing's too urgent. It's urgent inside, but never outside, So it helped me to slow down on scenes where she's high or where she's just, she's sort of just like shooting the shit with her band. Like, so it did, I just kind of used it in a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I won't recommend it, but whatever.
So here's the thing. So not only, Andra, are you this really grasping the humanity of Billie Holiday, but there is a vulnerability to Billie that we see in this movie that is just so powerful and unflinching and uncompromising. And I'm sure must have been very difficult for both of you to film. So how did you help each other work together to help each other get through those more difficult scenes to film?
Uh, um, the difficult scenes for me were how did we help each other? I mean, we prayed.
Yeah.
We prayed a lot. We prayed a lot. We prayed, and before every scene we prayed. And wow.
Loaded question.
I mean, that's a really good question, Scott. I think that the way we helped each other was, or the way she helped, Andra. That's a hard one. How do we help each other get through difficult scenes? The difficult scenes, I think that the difficult, each scene was difficult, Scott.
Yeah,
Each scene was fucking difficult. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done before in my life. That was
funny.
I mean, it was the hardest thing ever. And it wasn't just about, I think that we dealt through humor. A lot of it was humor.
Yes.
It was really important that I kept catch the humor. The hardest scene for her to act in, I think, all of them, was the dog scene, because I wanted them to, they had to really commit to crying.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm in the corner laughing my ass off. I couldn't believe tears are rolling down my face. I'd never seen anything before in my life like it.
Yeah.
They're crying over a dog. The three of them were brilliant. You can't make this shit up. And so, so that was really a difficult scene.
Yeah, that was challenging.
That was a challenging scene for me.
For me, that scene was so difficult because it was like, first of all, being on set with him, at least from this experience that I've had, was a lesson, right? Because even like it changed the way I looked at comedy, right? I love comedic actors and I'm like, oh, they're being funny. But the reality is they're not. They're being serious and they're actually feeling it. And it's just written and directed and cut in such a way that makes us laugh. But what makes it funny, if they're trying to be funny, it's not funny. But what makes it funny was that, so on set for us, that day was so hard. You know what I mean? Because everything that I'm dealing with, everything that my family has sort of been through, and the separations, and just like, and our people have been through, all of that shit I'm living in, you know what I mean? And so it was extra difficult because on the other days we're sort of together and with somber, and we understand that we're all feeling this. This takes like, yeah, you're in pain, and it's hilarious that it's like you're laughing at it as well too, but that's how it has to be to get it. So but I think, like he said, prayer was huge, humor was huge. And then it goes back for me to trust. It was trusting. He had such a clear vision, but he was also like wonderfully collaborative. So it's like, he looked at us, I feel, for me, and again, I don't have a frame of reference, but for me, I'm on set with somebody who says, I have actors and my actors are also artists. So what do you guys see for this scene? What do you think for this scene? And so it allows us to bring our human elements and our perspective of things as well too, and just put it together in such a beautiful way. So it just felt like a real, like you said, a cookout where we're all just bringing dishes to.
It was a cookout. It was like your auntie's cookout. Here's the answer to that question. We did a love scene that was probably the roughest, another rough scene, just emotionally for me. I was so protective of both of the actors. It it was pretty intense. I felt bad for my cinematographer who's like this, who's up this close to everything.
Poor Andrew.
And you know, I have to say, okay, now you have to slap her ass. And I'm like, oh, you know, and that moment of her in the middle of making love, or actually not even making love, but having sex, because they weren't making love until after. Making love and then saying, stop, guys, stop. Billie, stop. This is new to you. What do you know, and then shifting it all together was really hard because we were all trying to, and we were running, I mean, we were trying to make our day. They were going to pull the plug on us that day.
Yeah.
That was the last scene.
It was crazy. It was the last scene of the
That was the last scene, and I was.
What did we have? Like 45 minutes? 45
we had 45 minutes to shoot the entire scene. I don't even think we got all your coverage. I don't even think we got all your coverage. If you noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, it was down to the wire, and it was like, again, it was one of those moments of like trust, you know, and just diving in together. So it was like, yeah, I mean, it was incredibly awkward and uncomfortable for me, but I will tell you, he was so careful and so caring about like what was the thing you mentioned? You were like, oh, it's like trying to direct your kids in something like this. I can't do this. This is crazy. You know, like he was so, but it was like, okay, but he knew that he wanted to be it.
I kept running away from the monitor. I didn't want to look.
You kept saying to what I loved about it though is he says, I don't want it to be gratuitous. I don't want it, even though that's what she's used to in a brothel, I don't. So when he's that careful and has a vision, when everybody is so respectful, Trevante is a person of such high integrity. Like, so it was like, I was uncomfortable and I was basically uncomfortable the whole time, but there were moments where I was able to just unravel and say, let's just get in this together because I'm around good people and people who are care about not just the character, but me as an actor and care about this space. I think we got what we got because everybody was so invested and present and like careful, you know what I mean? And caring. So yeah, it was crazy for sure.
Well, I got to tell you, again, I watched it twice in a week. Okay. Andrade, Lee Daniels, congratulations on this spectacular film. The United States versus Billie Holiday drops on Hulu on February 26th, and I cannot wait to watch it again. Please spread the word, and thank you so much for joining us for this conversation for Film Independent.